Study, both rightists and leftists are prejudiced, but toward different groups. Oh my goodness, what a headline. Have I been wrong basically my entire life to not notice that progressives are just as bigoted as conservatives? I guess so. Oh wait, hold on, almost forgot the golden rule. Read the fucking article. And just as a heads up, when I say that, I usually mean the actual scientific paper, not the mainstream news article. In this case, though, the full article isn't free online, so that can be tough for a lot of you. But good news, the news article itself has pretty much everything we need to explain what's actually going on here and to basically debunk that headline. First thing to know is that this study was not conducted in the United States, so if you're American, you should not necessarily be picturing Ted Cruz versus Beto O'Rourke. It was conducted in Poland, though, which does lean pretty heavily to the right like the US, so it's not a completely terrible translation. Second of all, like most psychology studies, this one was conducted on psychology students. This is an ongoing problem, and we should remember that not everyone has the same outlook as a 19-year-old white psychology undergrad. Third of all, while the study did find that rightists and leftists are both prejudiced toward people on the other side of the political aisle, it did not find that they were equally prejudiced. For instance, leftists were prejudiced against Catholics who wanted public schools to teach Catholicism in school, but not against Catholics who were fine keeping religion out of public schools. Meanwhile, rightists were prejudiced against atheists. All of them, regardless of whether or not the atheists wanted to keep religion out of schools. That is in no way equal. It's understandable to have a bias against someone who is going to impact your life in what you view to be a negative way. It is bigoted to have a bias against someone who has no impact on you at all just because you don't like what they personally believe. So when we talk about prejudice, we're not talking about bigotry in both cases. Only in the conservatives' case, and that is a very important distinction. The more interesting finding of this study is that they measured right and left worldviews as both economic and cultural. It's a common misconception that those two things aren't interrelated, which is how we end up with fiscally conservative, socially progressive libertarians who don't understand how economic inequality ties in with the war on drugs and other racist policies. But let's just accept it and move on. The study found that people were less likely to be biased against people on the other side of the economic aisle and more likely to be biased against people who were on the other side of the cultural aisle, indicating that the thing stoking the prejudice is based upon our value system. As an example, if your coworker mentions voting for a proposition that will raise sales tax, and you're against that proposition, you're not very likely to develop a prejudice against him. But if he votes for a proposition that directly confronts your core values, like, say, allowing amusement parks to keep whales in tanks, that is more likely to bias you against him. I mean, really, because what kind of monster wants a whale kept in a tank? Did you not see Free Willy? Blackfish? The Cove? What's wrong with your coworker? Sorry, getting off track. So yes, liberals and conservatives both have biases against the other side, but the important takeaways are that they are not equal in severity or in logic, and they are mostly based on a perceived difference in cultural values. And in the actual study examples, leftist values were, please leave us alone, and rightist values were, no,